AITA for walking away after my ex said I wasn't invited to her catch-up coffee date? Her presence here matters a lot. The Saturday morning sun came through the window and drew a clear strip on the hardwood floor, illuminating dust particles dancing in the conditioned air. It was the type of morning that had always been ours, silent, unhurried, without plans. The smell of the coffee I had just brewed still floated in the apartment. It was that familiar aroma that brings comfort. I was distractedly checking the news on my smartphone, feet up on the ottoman, feeling a simple and rare peace. Haley, on the other hand, moved with a purpose that didn't fit that atmosphere at all. I watched her over the screen of my phone. She was in front of the large mirror near the door, not in her typical weekend outfit of leggings and an old college t-shirt of mine, but in a tight black dress. Her makeup was applied with care, nothing exaggerated, but clearly thought out. Soft eyeshadow, bold lipstick. That wasn't a look for brunch with friends. When she went out with them, everything was flashier, louder. This was different. "You look beautiful," I commented, putting the phone aside. Important plans. She didn't turn around and kept adjusting her dress in front of the mirror. "I'm going to meet someone for coffee." The casual tone sounded too rehearsed. A discreet alert started ringing in the back of my head. I kept my voice light. "Oh, nice. With whom?" Finally, she turned around, but her eyes remained glued to her phone, fingers typing fast. A small smile, almost imperceptible, appeared on her freshly painted lips. "My ex, Brent, is in town." The words reached me, but took a second to make sense. Brent, the one from before me, the heir to a family fortune, always posing in photos with that smile of superiority. He was the same one she described as toxic, obsessed with status and appearances. My stomach tightened. "Brent," I repeated, the name feeling strange in my mouth. "Okay, then let's go meet him." That was the moment, the exact point where she should have said, "It's quick. Just an hour, relax." It was the moment where I would have complained internally, but would have accepted it, because that's how things work. "You two are still together." But she didn't say that. She looked up from the phone and faced me firmly, without asking for permission or offering an apology. It was a statement, a cross line. There was something in her look. Not guilt, but something closer to superiority, as if she knew something I would never understand. "It's just to talk," she said with a calm voice. She made a calculated pause, and then came the dry, precise blow. "You are not invited." The air seemed to disappear from the room. The smell of coffee turned bitter. The quiet morning shattered into 1,000 cutting fragments. "You are not invited." The words echoed inside my head. That had nothing to do with coffee or catching up. It was a power play, a line drawn coldly and cruelly. "I am going to a place where you don't enter. I am prioritizing someone from my past over you, my present, and I'm making sure to make it very clear to you." It was then that I felt the weight in my pants pocket, the crumpled receipt from the jewelry store. The day before, I had gone for the custom-made ring. The plan was to surprise her that very night, cook her favorite dish, and kneel right there, in that same strip of sunlight. The down payment had been high, costing months of saving dollars from every paycheck. The ring was ready, waiting for me. It was going to be the beginning of everything. And in that instant, she was telling me that I was not part of her life. I saw the future condensed into a few seconds. I saw the arguments, the accusations that I would be controlling if I complained, the silent resentment if I stayed quiet, and the slow and painful erosion of my self-esteem while I accepted a smaller and smaller role in her world. The alert in my mind no longer sounded like an alarm. Now it was a unique, clear, definitive sound. I looked at the woman with whom I was ready to build a life and saw a stranger. The pain, the anger, the betrayal, everything exploded inside me. But on the outside, I froze. No reaction, no crack. When I spoke, my voice came out calm, neutral. It wasn't a question, it wasn't a plea, it was the acceptance of the terms. Understood. For an instant, she seemed almost disappointed, as if she had expected a fight. I gave her exactly the opposite. She felt a slight shiver, took her designer bag, and left. The click of the door closing sounded louder than anything I had heard before. I stayed there alone in the silent, sunlit apartment. Her perfume still floated in the air, and the receipt for a future that was never going to happen seemed to burn in my pocket. The time for doubt was over. The time to act had begun. The word remained suspended in the air after the door closed with a dry click. Understood. It wasn't just a word. It was a key turning in a lock. The lock of the box where I had kept all the love for her, all the plans, all the patience. I turned the key, locked everything inside, and the storm of emotions boiling in me, the pain, the blind rage, the nauseating sense of betrayal, was immediately silenced. It still existed like a heavy thundercloud, but now it was contained, distant. The chaotic energy transformed into something cold, direct, and focused. I moved, and my first movement wasn't impulsive. It was calculated. I took my wallet out of my back pocket and extracted the receipt. It was crumpled from carrying it with me since the day before. A tangible secret. Above, the elegant logo of the jewelry store. Below, the description, 14-karat white gold custom solitaire, 1.2 carats with an inlaid band. Then the number, a high dollar amount, the sum I had gathered with overtime for months. I dialed the phone number printed on the paper. My hand was steady. My voice when the sales associate answered was surprisingly calm. Good morning, my name is Gavin Parker. I have a ring order scheduled for pickup today. I gave her the order number. I need to cancel the order and request the refund of the deposit to the original card. There was a small pause. I'm very sorry to hear that, sir. Is everything okay? The engagement is canceled. I replied in a neutral tone, almost administrative. I didn't explain anything else. There was no tremor in my voice, no scene of sadness. I was closing a transaction that no longer made sense. I understand. Of course, sir. I'll handle it right now. The refund can take 3 to 5 business days, depending on your bank. Thank you. I hung up. I placed the receipt right in the center of the granite kitchen counter, a silent monument to a canceled future. Then I went to the bedroom and took my biggest suitcase from the top of the closet and a few moving boxes I had kept since the last time I moved. I started packing everything with an efficient, almost mechanical rhythm. This wasn't a heartbroken man packing bags. It was someone executing a strategic withdrawal. I started with my clothes, my side of the closet, my drawers. I didn't touch anything of hers. I didn't stop to smell a sweater, nor look at the photos on the dresser. Those were like memories of a country from which I had been forcibly expelled. They no longer had power over me. I took only what was indisputably mine. The books on the nightstand, the laptop, the charger, the high-end headphones I had bought as a gift for myself. I left the TV we bought together, the kitchen utensils, the throw pillows she insisted on choosing. All that was part of the life I was leaving behind. Remnants of a shared history that had just revealed itself as a lie. It was dead weight, and I was cutting it loose. Each thing placed in a box seemed to lift a weight off me. The suitcase received the essentials, the boxes, the rest of a previous life. I took everything to the car. Trip after trip, I filled the trunk and the back seat. The physical effort was strangely liberating, clean, a true release. When the last box went into the car, I took one last turn around the apartment. It no longer looked like the same place. It was no longer our home. It was her apartment, smaller, emptier. I stood in the living room, in the same spot where the sun now highlighted the clear marks on the rug where my furniture used to be. I was finished there. Nothing of mine remained in that space. I took the car keys and the last small box containing my toothbrush, razor, and some bathroom items. I didn't look back. I walked out, went down the stairs, and got into the car. I didn't start the engine immediately. I sat there in silence and took my phone. I opened her contact. The photo was from a trip to Puerto Vallarta. She was laughing, a moment I had captured myself. I looked at it for a last second, then touched the screen. Block contact. The confirmation appeared. Are you sure you want to block this contact? Yes, I was. I tapped confirm. Only then did I start the car. I didn't have a defined destination. Not yet. A hotel for that night. The next day, I would solve the rest. A new place, a new beginning. For now, the only important thing was that I was moving forward, away from her. The rearview mirror was just glass. There was nothing there worth looking at anymore. It didn't take long. I was leaning on the car door, feeling the fresh air of the early evening, when her sedan parked a few spots ahead. The streetlights had just turned on, dyeing everything in orange and cold tone. I saw her get out of the car with a slight wobble in her steps. She had done more than just drink coffee. She walked humming softly, with a small and satisfied smile, while rummaging for keys in her bag. At first, she didn't even see me. She was still inside the bubble of that afternoon, the same bubble from which I had been very clearly excluded. I stepped away from the car and took a few steps, entering the strip of light between the parked cars. The sound of my shoes on the asphalt made her look up. The smile disappeared instantly. It was replaced by frightened confusion when her eyes landed on me and immediately slid to the inside of my visibly loaded car. "Gavin, what? What is this?" she asked with a voice loaded with a panic that was starting to peek out. She pointed without much strength at the last cardboard box I was carrying in my arms. I didn't answer the question. I kept my voice completely neutral. It met directly with her growing unease. "And how was the coffee?" The question threw her off. It was too simple, too normal, and hung between us, totally incompatible with the obvious scene of my departure. "It was fine," she started, frowning, defense mechanisms already arming themselves. "It was good. Why are you?" "It's over." The two words cut her sentence without rage, without raising the tone. Just a fact. Dry, definitive. For a second there was silence. Then everything started to crumble. "What?" She let out a short laugh. Incredulous. "You're breaking up with me because I had coffee with an ex? That's absurd." I remained silent. My calm seemed only to fuel the fire. "It was just a coffee," she insisted, her voice rising in pitch. "You're being too sensitive, controlling. I warned you." "I didn't warn you. I was honest." "You were cold," I corrected in the same tone. "Calm. There is a difference." "Oh my God," she snorted, raising her hands to the sky. "So I expressed myself badly. And you're really going to throw away our whole future? Our engagement over a poorly phrased sentence." The word engagement was the hook she needed. I didn't say anything. I just looked at her and let the silence along with the full car answer for me. The future she spoke of had already been left behind. The confusion on her face turned to rage. The mask fell completely when minimization and manipulation didn't work. "You're pathetic," she spat, face contorted. "Are you really doing this? Running away because you can't handle a confident woman with a life of her own? You are never going to find someone who puts up with you like I put up with you." She took a step closer. "Are you listening to me? Never." The words were meant to hurt, to break my decision, to make me beg. They echoed in the silent street, ugly and desperate. I took a deep breath, not out of necessity, but as a definitive end. I adjusted the box slightly in my arms, a physical reminder of the choice I had already made. "That future you speak of," I said with a firm and clear voice, "ended the moment you made it clear that I was not invited to be part of it." I paused briefly. "Goodbye, Haley." I didn't wait for an answer. I turned around, put the box on the passenger seat, and got into the car. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw her standing on the sidewalk, motionless, mouth open, divided between shock and fury. I started the engine. The sound was solid, definitive. Leaving the spot, I didn't look back. I looked forward to the street that stretched out clean, empty, and full of possibilities. The first part of the rest of my life was that silent street getting left behind, swallowed by the night, and that was enough. The first 48 hours were a study in silence. I stayed at a simple hotel, without personality, smelling of cleaning products and cheap air freshener. Perfect. There were no memories or ghosts there. I spent the time on my laptop looking at apartment ads in another part of the city and on my phone, where the only notifications came from a group of friends who still had no idea of the implosion that had just occurred in my life. The silence wasn't empty. It was full of a deep, almost electric peace, but it didn't last. The first attempt arrived on the third day. A message from an unknown number. I knew it was her. The tone was a complete manual of manipulative rewriting of history. Unknown number. "Gavin, this is crazy. Can we talk? Are you exaggerating? It was just a coffee. Are you throwing away something real for a misunderstanding?" I read it all. The words exaggerating and misunderstanding were so predictable they were tiring. She was trying to turn my firm decision into emotional hysteria and her attitude into something secondary. I didn't block the number immediately. I wanted to observe the pattern. I deleted the message and went back to comparing apartment floor plans. The second attempt arrived later that same night. A voice message. Her voice sounded different, defenseless, covered by a trembling urgency, almost rehearsed. "Gavin, it's me. Please answer." "Okay, I understood. You're angry." "I messed up." A short, heavy pause. "It was stupid. Brent meant nothing. He's gone already." He left town. It was just, I don't know. Ego. I made a mistake, a huge mistake, huge, really. Please, I need you. I'm alone in this apartment. Her voice broke. Everything is so quiet. Just call me back, please. I saved the voice message. Not out of sentiment, but as proof. Proof of the clear transition from guilt to pleading. The confession about ego confirmed everything I already suspected. She wasn't sorry for what she did. She was sorry for the consequences. The silence of the apartment, which was now hers alone, was the punishment. It wasn't my problem. I deleted the audio and blocked the new number. The third attempt arrived in the form of a message. This time poisonous. The mask had fallen completely. Despair had turned into pure rage. Unknown number. Fine, so be it. You were always too weak for me. You can't handle a real woman. You're going to come back. You're going to realize what you lost, and you're going to crawl back. And I'm going to laugh. I almost smiled. That was the real Haley. The same one who had told me I wasn't invited. The same one for whom love was a battlefield and respect was a sign of weakness. That message was a gift. The final confirmation that I had made the only possible choice. I blocked that number too. Then came the flying monkeys. My phone vibrated with a known contact. Jenna, Haley's most toxic friend. The one who always seemed to applaud from afar every selfish attitude disguised as bravery. I answered and put it on speaker while folding clothes in the hotel room. Gavin. Hi, it's Jenna. The voice was sweet, loaded with fake concern. I know, I replied dryly. Look, I know what Haley did was confusing. She's a mess. Total chaos. You have to understand. She's losing her mind. She is very sorry. A real man would know how to forgive. I stopped folding the clothes. Jenna, I said without any emotion. What is the goal of this call? She got tangled up. The goal is that you are being cruel. She made a mistake. I don't care in the slightest, I replied calmly. It's not my problem anymore. Don't call me again. I hung up and blocked her number too. The circle closed. Please, rage, intermediaries. It was a script I was no longer part of. A final email arrived the next day. The final sigh before complete digital silence. It came from an email address I didn't recognize, but the voice was unmistakable. Subject, now I understand, Gavin. I'm writing to you because you blocked me on everything. I went to the jewelry store today. I don't even know what I expected to find. They told me you canceled the ring, that you asked for the refund of the deposit the same day I went out for coffee. That was when I really understood. You weren't angry or hurt. You were done. You made your decision while I was still sitting in the cafe. You were already gone. Brent didn't answer any messages. He used that reunion to try to start something inappropriate one last time. When I told him no, he disappeared. He was just using me. And I threw everything away for that, for nothing. Now I understand that I lost, and I'm going to have to live with that. Haley. I read it once. Then I selected the email and hit delete. I didn't need her understanding or her closure. Her collapse wasn't a weight I was going to carry. Karma wasn't dramatic. It was silent and complete. She stayed alone in the apartment. She turned into a territory of exclusion, haunted by the ghost of a future she herself set on fire for an ego boost coming from a man who saw her as a trophy. She was financially broken after depending on my income for the big bills, isolated, with her social circle contaminated by the shameful truth of her own situation. And I felt nothing more than a distant pity, almost academic, like what one feels when reading about someone who made a historically disastrous decision. It was over. The consequences were hers. Life, mine, was just beginning. 2 months later, I was in a booth at the Grizzly Bear, a bar we had never frequented together, laughing with 2 of my lifelong friends. The air was thick with the smell of fried food and beer. A noisy game of darts was happening in a corner. I was relaxed, arms resting on the back of the seat and a cold mug in front of me. This was my world now, louder, messier, and infinitely more honest. I saw her the instant she walked in. Haley came with Jenna, standing near the door as if facing an invisible cold wind. She looked thinner. I knew the dress well, from better times. Now it was too big on her. Her eyes scanned the place until landing on me. They widened, filled with a desperate hope. I looked away. I turned my attention back to Victor's story about a disastrous golf lesson and took a slow sip of beer. The piece inside me didn't move even a millimeter. A shadow fell over the table. I looked up. She was standing there in front of me, hands clenched at her sides in a clear gesture of nervousness. A few steps back, Jenna watched everything with a closed face loaded with resentment. "Gavin, hi." Her voice came out fragile, almost drowned out by the noise of the bar. You are okay. You look good." I tilted my head slightly, polite, distant. It was the same gesture one makes with a stranger at a store checkout. "Haley, how are you?" The question, simple and without any subtext, seemed to disarm her inside. Her posture gave way. "Not very well," she admitted, the words coming out fast, trembling. "Honestly, terrible. I miss you. What I did was the stupidest thing of my life." He meant nothing. She took a deep breath. "You meant everything." She expected something. A sign of softness, a phrase of comfort, an apology for her suffering, any crack that would return her to my orbit. I said nothing, just looked at her with a neutral face, eyes calm. There was no anger there, nor remaining love, not even the cold satisfaction of being right. There was only nothing, a vast and silent space of indifference. My silence scared her more than any scream. Then she tried to fill it. "So is this it? After all this time, after everything we built?" I put the mug of beer on the coaster with a soft and definitive click. I wasn't talking to someone I once loved. I was explaining a basic fact of reality to a stranger. That was another life. I replied with a firm and calm voice. I already made peace with that. I am happy in this one. I paused, letting the weight of the truth occupy the space between us. She felt it. That real, solid tranquility, impossible to fake, manipulate, or steal, was the only thing she could never touch. And you are not part of it. For a few seconds, she remained motionless. The desperate hope in her eyes went out, replaced by a slow and devastating understanding. She was facing a truly free man, and her presence, her pain, and her own existence were as relevant as a forgotten receipt for a ring that was never picked up. She no longer had any power. Without saying another word, she turned around and left with her shoulders slumped in complete and definitive defeat. Jenna shot me a venomous look before following her. My friend Caleb let out a low whistle. "Whoa, who was that?" I took my beer again, a light and sincere smile appearing at the corner of my mouth as I turned back to my friends. "Nobody," I replied, and I meant it exactly like that. The chat continued. The darts game got louder. The night went on. I was already where I needed to be, present, alive, inside my new life. A life that she, without realizing it, had given me the courage to assume, and it was better than anything I had left behind. Comment. I hope this story resonated with you in a meaningful way. Sometimes the strongest thing we can do is walk away from situations where we aren't valued. Setting boundaries isn't about being cold. It's about protecting your peace and well-being. We often fear the silence that follows a major change, yet that silence is exactly where we find ourselves again. Remember, you teach people how to treat you by what you're willing to accept. Real love and respect should never make you feel like an outsider in your own relationship. Prioritizing your mental health isn't selfish. It's a necessary act of self-care. Trust your instincts when they tell you something is wrong, because your intuition is usually right. I encourage you to choose your dignity over the comfort of familiar pain. May you find the courage to build a life that is honest, calm, and truly yours. If you liked it, don't forget to leave a comment and support the channel by subscribing. See you in the upcoming stories.